agenda, certainly not the 45 items we had at the last full council meeting. And I will start with public question time. I'm going to suggest two things. We've got Margaret, yes, you want to speak. I'm going to suggest we hear Margaret at the normal time, but that we defer Alex to when his bit comes up on the agenda, because it's a long, complicated bit. You don't hear Donna. So it makes more sense for him to speak during that section. Are you happy with that change to standing order? Can you vote?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll start with you, Margaret. You've got 3 minutes, I'm afraid.
My goodness, thank you very much, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. Just for a change, I'm not here to ask you for money. Rather, I'm seeking your permission, please, to put a banner at the back of the glass-side building, back of the public toilets facing the bus station. Some of you will know that there's been a lot of work carried out over the winter on creating a new brand image for Home First. It's called Make It Your Home First, or Your Home First. And the logo, the design is new, it's fresh, it's bright, it's very modern, it's forward-looking, and most importantly, it captures all the very many components of what makes our town so very special. So some of you won't like it, that is inevitable in a brand design, so please feel free to criticise it, but I really hope the majority of you will be as excited and as pleased with it as I am. I think the work that's been done is really quite inspired. So over to you, please.
Thank
May we
you.
have your permission to put a banner on the back of your building?
Right. Thank you. We'll move on to the agenda and get to you pretty early. We are being recorded anyway for the YouTube channel, for our own YouTube channel. Is there anybody who wants to record in addition to what we're doing? No? Okay. Is there anything anyone considers should be heard in private session? No. Okay. You have been, the apologies and the reasons for absence have been circulated. Do we accept these reasons? Vote, please. Thank you. Declarations of interest. Have we had any?
Yes, so councillors Fenwick, Dixon, Blacker, Bellamy, Colling, Morgan, Green, Greaves, Kirkby, Barnett, Rostron, Bailey, Lyles, Whitelaw, Holmes, Wilson, Bransby and Stewart have revised their DPIs, and they've been received since the 10th of May 2024 and also shared by email, which hopefully you've then deleted with all councillors. There's also one new DPI, Councillor Osborne, that's also been circulated, and yeah, so they were shared by email on the 28th of May.
Right, thank you. We note that. Do we all note it?
Yeah.
Declarations of interest in agenda items. In first, councillors. Councillor Ramsby?
Civic Board Trustee.
Right.
Likewise, I'm not sure that's necessarily
Well,
declaring an interest.
I think we've come to a sort of, we may cover this in the all-councillor training, which would be helpful. We've come to a sort of view that those people who we have elected as trustees, so Glenn and I, should obviously be allowed to speak, since we elect them to tell us what's going on. It would be ridiculous they couldn't speak. For the time being, I mean, it's unlikely that this will be a knife edge. It might be better not to vote in this particular instance. But we can, I think when we do the all councillor training, that could be a whole area for that. If we could highlight to them, we'd like some real guidance about our own nominees to be trustees on bodies that come in. But meanwhile, I suggest that you and Steve speak by all means, though I am expecting the case to be made by Alex, who is not part of the council at all, who's chair of the trustees. But we welcome your information and all the rest, but ask you not to vote. If it comes to a completely balanced vote, we may have to have a vote on whether you can vote. Any other declarations of interest or anything else?
My stepson Moses Cook is a Kirklees councillor.
That's right. And for the time being, again, until we do the training, I think Sarah and I have agreed that she will declare that at every meeting she's in. Any other declarations of interest? Officers? No? So, confirm the minutes. Is everyone here, do they prove that they are an accurate set of minutes? All those in favour? Yep, thank you. And then other minutes.
We're receiving information first, please, Chair, if that's okay. So I've made some points about minute 242510 office holders for 2024-25, that the following appointments of vice chairs have been made: finance and management, Councillor Graham Kirkby; planning, Councillor Andy Wilson; case, Councillor Green; and the service provision vice chair will be appointed at its meeting on the 8th of July. And then also, just to say, it still remains an action for me to write to the chair of HCHCT to just summarise the parish council's position on the civic boundaries and correspondence with our High Town Lane neighbours. Just to say that in terms of minute 242517, Home for blueprints, efforts are being made by the planning committee to contact key Kirklees officers to obtain up-to-date feedback concerning the Home for blueprints, and also to explain that with regards to minute 242522, reports from Kirklees ward councillors, this item will no longer feature in full council agendas. It had been recommended by Case as part of the attempt to improve communications between the parish council and Kirklees council, but it has been raised that parish councillors who are here as parish councillors, not Kirklees councillors. It wasn't a reasonable expectation that they should be expected to report on Kirklees matters unless they decided to. So,
yeah, I think there are several points to be made here. One is that there's a recommendation from Case that this should be added as a standing item that is approved by Council in December. I'm not sure why that has been overturned. It would seem to me that that's a matter for full Council to decide. It was put onto the agenda, it was suggested by Case, because one of the things that is a priority for us is to try and develop relationships between all sorts of organisations, including Kirklees Council, and this seemed a perfect way, given that at the moment we have a Tory councillor, an independent councillor, and now a Labour councillor, that it would be possible to have feedback of a factual basis, and maybe that's the crux of the matter here, that it's not an opportunity to make party political points, but to give information about things which the councillors have knowledge of, which might be helpful to members of the parish council. So I would like to move that we reinstate that opportunity with a clear mandate for factual reporting from all councillors, should they so wish.
Okay, would anybody else like to speak on this topic? Tom?
I
should probably speak about it because I suggested we remove it from the agendas. So my reasoning for this has kind of been explained by Sarah actually, because I don't think it was being used in the correct way or how we intended it to be used. Some councillors were using it as a way to ask questions of the ward councillors, and I don't think it was kind of like that kind of thing to be a forum where they ask questions of them. It should be like what you mentioned, for them to report on anything to come forward to us. But if I'm being honest, I thought that if any of us have got any questions to ask of Donna, Sarah, the other ward councillors, we can just email them or ring them up or ask them ourselves. Or additionally as well, they would generally report back to the council anyway about any issues, anything that's coming up about other things. So I just thought it was a bit ambiguous about what it was for, and I didn't think it was really that relevant.
Before I call Sarah again, is there anyone else who wants to speak to it? Jane?
I personally, I don't have any problems with talking as a co-police councillor and giving information, as long as it's simple information and not opinion. And there must be lots of things there are lots of things that are going on in the council, which is just information. It doesn't have to be anything partisan. So I would be quite happy to do that, but I would be against it if it ended up being, asking questions and a little bit sort of to and fro and opinion making by Kirklees councillors.
Thank you. Jenny?
I just think it would be very useful just to be alerted to what the key issues are that Kirklees are dealing with. And then once you've alerted us to them, we can actually look them up. But we don't know what those key issues are unless we're informed. And we could go through every meeting and look at every meeting, but we're not going to do that. So I would appreciate keeping it on the agenda.
Anybody else? Mary?
I feel a bit ambivalent about this really, because another point that's been made already, I think, by the clerk, which is that Kirklees Council here in a different capacity. They are here as parish councillors, and I don't think there should be any requirement whatsoever on them to feed back towards the parish council. And there are parish councillors with no Kirklees councillors on them. So I feel I would feel happy. I think it was removed from the minutes.
Councillor Bellamy?
I actually agree a bit with Mary here, because I think if there is anything to be back from Kirklees councillors do anyway. If there is something that's come up, or like the unfair blueprint. I know letters have been sent out to residents, which I was going to tell you tonight anyway. So I think some Charles will probably agree here. We probably do tell you, but I think that for us to be absolutely bombarded with questions and quiz, that is not. That definitely isn't the place for that, because then you are going to get the views and the politics and the rest of it. So I actually sort of agree. I think Maria as parish council was not council.
Sorry. Donald?
Well, going back a number of years ago, yes, we used to get asked by the parish council, being a member of the parish council as well as Kirklees, what was going on down there. The thing is, we have to be very, very careful, because if you passed information on, got in the wrong hands, you would either enlarge upon it, and it just became untrue, or they would not say anything. Now, the thing about not saying anything can be good in some cases, because at the end of the day, when you get told something at Kirklees Council, very often you're told not to tell anybody. It's as simple as that. So unless you're allowed to say something, you've got to be very careful what you say and where you say it. It's as simple as that. So I think, from a council's point of view, especially a Kirklees councillor, I used to think we'd job enough on running that lot down there without sorting anybody else out, because it is a big job, as people will find out. It's not straightforward and there's lots of things to do and there's lots of things to remember. I know, and I mean, I've done a year or two down there, so I can speak with a way that I do know what, you know, how things work. If you want to put something in the agenda to say, if there's something you're not happy about, you can speak to the council who happens to represent that particular part of the council down there, I don't see a problem. But please don't put a lot of weight on council because it's a big job and a job enough on. Can I say that?
Anybody else before I call on Sarah again? Sarah?
For me, this is a matter of communication, and I absolutely take on board what people are saying about not getting into massive questioning or lots of detail or things that are private and confidential. Absolutely not. This is about saying, is there anything that you would like to share with us because it's useful information to the parish council? It's relevant to us, factual information, end of chat, and it's up to the chair, it seems to me, to make sure that that's exactly what happens.
Well, in actual fact, I was
Okay, well,
relevant.
thank
It's
you,
irrelevant
Donald.
to
Thank
my
you,
council.
Donald. Thank you. You've spoken already. We're moving to a vote. All those in favour of removing it, yes? All those, please vote if you wish to remove it.
Well, you need,
Oh, I need a
proposal
proposal.
in a,
So I need what? Sarah to propose keeping it? Sarah proposes keeping it. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Lawrence. All those in favour of keeping this item on the agenda, please raise your hand. I get 8. An 8. All those against? Five. So it stays on the agenda. Thank you. Which brings us on to the unreleased, the final bit in the...
before we move on from it, Chair, can I just say, all I've done with this agenda is put on what I was asked to put on. So, please don't think that somehow this has been me trying to.
Can I ask a question? How did that decision come to be arrived at then in the first place, that it was to be removed?
Well, there was an exchange of emails between myself and Councillor Dixon. In fact, until Councillor Dixon said, I was sat there thinking, I couldn't remember who it was who had a conversation with me. So I was very glad that you did speak up then. So,
Okay, so
that's where it came from.
can I be clear here? Is it protocol then for any member of the council to contact the clerk and say, I would like an item of standing item to be removed from the agenda?
It is a matter arising rather than an agenda item in its own right. It's a matter
But
arising.
it is an agenda item. It was, you know, having a report from the Ward Council was the standing item on the agenda. And what's happened here is it's been asked to be removed and reported on as it will be removed. So I'm just asking whether that is the way that we deal with queries about items on the agenda. That's all.
I didn't think it was going to be controversial, and I apologise.
No, that's fine. I just want to be clear, that's all.
And you know, to be absolutely honest, I knew I was off on leave, and I was trying to make sure that I got as much of the agenda done as possible before I did.
Understand.
Chancellor, you've got something that's new to add because we've already voted, or can we move on?
Well, it relates to that, just the question that Councillor Whitehall just put to the fire, which was at the previous council meeting, we did have some discussion around the merits of this item and whether it was worth continuing with. So it didn't exactly come from nowhere, and the point made by myself and Donna at that time was, it's not really practical or possible, it's not our role. But if you remember, there was that discussion, and I think for a member to raise a query with the clerk is perfectly acceptable.
I think it may simply have been hurried wording. I think we can probably move on from this. It's just perhaps phraseology would find. Jen has apologised for phrasing it the way she did. we voted. Can we move on?
Can I just say for the record though, that I do feel quite attacked about this. That, you know, obviously it's that's how I feel about it.
We'll come back to this.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk to the final item 5 on that proposal?
I think it speaks for itself anyway.
Right. Yes. We don't need to, I mean, there's nothing we can comment on with the release anyway. Are there any other matters arising from the minutes of the last meeting? No? So we move on to 4.9, standing committee meetings. Tom, do you want to do starting?
Yeah, I'd like to propose that we accept the minutes of the staffing committee meeting held on the 29th of April, number 25/25/01 to 25/25/16.
All those in favour? Thank you. We note the minutes of the planning committee. Do you want to do it? Oh, it's Mary. Mary, sorry.
Can I ask that we note the minutes of the planning committee held on the 20th of May, which were approved or have already been approved by the planning committee?
All those in favour to note? Thank you. Case, Sarah, would you like to propose? Sarah's proposing the minutes for case. Do all those in favour? And F&M.
Sorry,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, just before we move on from the case committee, it was just a correction really, which is at item 13 towards the bottom. It's got, it says member, member Blacker and member Morgan, which should be councillors. Just a minor.
Okay, they can be corrected, I'm sure. F&M, Andy, do you want to?
Yeah, could I ask council to approve the minutes of the F&M committee meeting held on the 10th of June?
All those in favour? Thank you. Okay. Margaret, finally we've got to your item. Margaret has got information from Kirklees which was attached in the papers, and it's clear from their very lengthy piece of paper that it's perfectly legal to do this, that we're not contravening any local or planning or whatever laws. So we can make the decision knowing that we're allowed to approve it if we wish to. Margaret is asking us to approve it. Is there anyone who wants to speak against it? No? Shall we go straight to it?
I'd like to make a comment on this because we have had comments made in planning before about banners being put up here on Home Firth and about them being scruffy and not looking in the right place for them. I've got no problem personally with them, but I know some people have spoken about it before as an issue. And in planning at the moment, we are going through shop displays and discussing shop displays and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering how this would fit in with what we're doing in planning. So that might be something the council will to comment on, maybe.
I'm not quite sure of the exact latest general development order in planning, but it used to be a sign like this could go 28 days without consent and without any problem. So I don't know how long Margaret wants to keep the banner up, but there is a deemed consent if we feel it acceptable. And we could seek Margaret to ask Margaret to show us the details before they start making the banner, and put that to planning committee to approve.
Okay. Councillor Wilson.
We did, you were not to be at the meeting, Steve, but we did chair that at the planning committee. The design of the banners and posters. So it is out there, it's in the public domain, I think. And it's only 27 minutes.
So, to be honest, I'm not 100% certain because the town is going to be absolutely festooned with lampposts and bollard covers and posters and stickers and footpath printing. The whole town is going to be covered from the middle of July onwards. But I think the intention is to keep it lively for as long as possible. So it's really up to you to tell us when to take it down, if you give us permission to put it up.
It sounds as though you've only got permission for 28 days, which is 1 month.
I can check the development.
We'll check,
Yes.
we'll look into it. Well,
Sorry, it was 28 days without any approval,
Yeah.
didn't you say? So with a.
oh, if we approve,
It could
ah,
stay
yeah.
for longer.
Thank you, thank you. Alison,
I was just going to ask about the additional things, the banners and whatnot. So, do you need permission for those as well?
No, as far as I'm aware, no.
I mean, at the moment, you've got the Arts Festival banners up, and they will stay there relevant to the Arts Festival,
Yeah.
and then they're often replaced by other themes.
But you're talking about things to promote the home further thing. Bollard covers as well.
you can knit your own, Alison. Councillor Ryler.
As I understand, this is part of a broader campaign, isn't it? So the banner will be will match the posters that are going to be going up on the lampposts.
Absolutely, it's been very professionally done, very
Yeah, I mean, I can show
coherent.
people some of the stuff they wish to.
It's essentially an announcement banner, isn't it? You know, here we are.
It's really nice, good stuff.
I mean, as I
It has been
understand it,
planned by the business group.
It's been done by Health Earth Business Together on behalf of all of us. They've coordinated and gained feedback from all sorts of different organisations.
We're not here to discuss whether we like it or not. Nothing, our taste has got nothing to do with this decision. It's whether we will have a banner, whatever the design. Councillor Holmes, you've already spoken once.
I wanted to propose that we approve it, because I think we've had plenty of discussion.
Do we have a second? Got a second? All those in favour of approving the banner? That looks like most people to me. Thank you. Any again? Are those people against? 1. Abstentions? 1, 2. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can stay if you like, Margaret. You're always welcome.
I'll stay for a while, thank you.
It's the civic. Right, the civic. This is, you've had the report. Alex is going to tell us that there's been a 10-year, a sort of Q survey and an estimate of 10-year costs, which will be valuable to us as a council, because as council we'll know what we're liable for over a longish period. So Alex, would you like to take us through it?
Yeah, so thank you very much. I'm here to represent the trustees for the Civic Trust, so thank you for your time. 12 months ago I was appointed chair, and since then we identified that we needed to look at a long-term future for how we're going to manage the Civic Hall going forward. I feel like the Civic Trust now are in the strongest position they've been probably for 7 years. We've got a very well skilled set of trustees, but also one of the most important things we did was appoint an architect who has got vast experience in working with listed buildings and has got a fantastic track record. We are here to ask for 3 decisions to be made. I'll just very briefly talk you through each of them. The first one is to have a look at the 5-year, to have a look at the agreement, so we can get a 5-year review of the lease between the Civic and the Parish Council. This is essentially important for us as we look to a long-term vision of developing the Civic Hall, because a lot of key funders, so outside funders, do look for programmes which are supported by a minimum lease of 20 years. So we do believe that if we work with you now to renew the current lease, to take it back to 25 years, and look at a suitable arrangement of renewing that every 5 years, that will take us back up to the 25 after that 5-year period. But ensure that as we progress towards a 10-year plan, we can always be on the forefront of being able to put a strong argument to any funder outside of Parish Council for funding to support our long-term vision. And I think it's also that gives an opportunity for the Parish Council to have confidence that the trust are here to stay. We formed a group who are prepared to stick around, prepared to put their expertise in ensuring that we get the very best out of the civic, not just now but for the future. The second decision we would like to look at is looking at the Parish Council taking on the responsibility for the repairs for the fabric of the building. Now, initially when we did take on the civic, which was 7 years ago, we were taking on under the understanding that the civic was going to be in a position to be able to raise its own funds to be able to support the ongoing kind of developments and repairs of the civic hall, but also that the condition of the building was sound. It's come apparent, given the report that we've now got from the architects, that the condition of the building isn't somewhat sound, and there is a 10-year plan that he's helped prepare for us to ensure that we can get this building up to a place that in 10 years we will be comfortable that the fabrics and the foundations are in a good solid place for us to then, during that period of time as well, to make some relevant modifications to modernise the civic as well. I think this would allow us to very much focus on the future of the civic. When we're looking at that plan which has been circulated and the details that have been provided by the architect, we've got 6 months now to find the additional reports, which will come on point 3. But then as of 2025, we're going to start a 10-year programme, and the first 2 years are going to look at the essential repairs, and then there'll be a rolling programme of other essential repairs that need to be done for following 8 years. During that first 2 years as well, we're going to be working very closely with the architect to look at the long-term vision of the Civic Hall. So we ourselves, as the trust, don't have to rely on you guys as the Parish Council. We're going to go out and seek external funding so we can do the other repairs, the modifications, developments and the improvements to make, hopefully, the Civic an iconic building, not just for the Valley, but for those who visit from afar as well. And finally, on the final decision that we're asking you to make is for the Holme Parish Council to hopefully release the £40,000 funding, which is, I think it was previously agreed, towards the additional investigation reports and to start the urgent works which we need to progress with. I would say at the moment that we do have a good understanding of the essential works, but there are additional service and survey reports that we need to understand to be able to have a 100% view of what we're going to be tackling when we're working with the architect. Once we've got these reports done, which should be done by the end of the year, we can go into 2025 fully informed as to how we can progress as part of that 10-year plan. Something to kind of mention as well is, one, we are working alongside the architect. Although they have stated that the essential repairs will take 10 years, there is every opportunity to be able to develop and use some of them alterations as part of the modifications to hopefully build in some cost savings further down the line. So we're doing everything we can, hopefully in the longer term, to ensure that there's a less of a financial burden on the Parish Council. So thank you very much for your time. Hopefully you've all had the opportunity to read the proposal and the report as well. I do believe that we are heading in the right direction, that we've got a very competent team behind us to take the Civic forward, and I do want to pass my thanks on to the 2 councillors who sat on the trustees for excellent communication over this last 12 months that's allowed us to progress in a really positive manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I'm sure that there are many questions, Lawrence.
Thanks, Alex. When you talk about other reports, this is, I think, going into more depth than certain of the issues that were raised in the outline of the report. Previously, I think you were also working with this firm of architects because they would have some visionary ideas as well. well about how you might develop parts of the building to generate greater revenue as well. Is that part of that, those extra reports you're talking about, or will that come later?
No, that'll come later, and that'll be something that the trust will take upon themselves. So the first 2 years, the absolute focus is on the essential repairs because there's some work that has to be done. We're going to use that 2-year period to start developing the vision and how we see kind of the civic looking over, over the next kind of 10, 20, 30 years. And then sitting alongside them essential repairs, we should then be able to start with external funding, kind of the modifications, the kind of upgrades and the future vision.
Any, sorry, can I just ask us a PS to that then? But are you using the architect to do that?
Yes, we're going to be, we're
Always
taking
work
that,
with the architect.
we're going to be working with the architect. The architect will be fully on board with us the entire way.
Right. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Any other questions? Do Andy, do you and Steve want to?
Yeah, not so much questions, more sort of
Yeah,
observations.
points,
And,
yeah.
and I don't want to go over what Alex has just talked about, he's done a very good job of that. I would just like to say that I think at times we think of the civic as being a bit of a millstone for us. I'd like to think of it in a different way. I think there's a tremendous opportunity here with this building. Both for us as a council and for the community and for the people who are running it downstairs. How many parish councils have a grade 2 listed building that is valued at £9 million? Many. I think what we have to also recognise is that carries with it a responsibility. And I think we have to be seriously looking at how we maintain it in the long term. And that's not for tonight, but I think going forward to future budgets, we have to think about how we're going to manage this place. But let's keep inside the end game. Tremendous work. Just don't look down in the dark corners.
or under the sink. Okay, if people haven't got anything to add further, you could move to a vote. I think we could take it in the 3 areas we've got outlined here. The terms of the lease.
If we take the motions directly from the report,
Okay.
so the first one is the introduction of 5-yearly reviews of the lease for the civic, and so long as all parties are in agreement that at each of those 5-yearly reviews the lease is extended back to 25 years duration. So that's the motion that you need a proposer and a seconder for, not Councillor Wilson or Councillor Ramsby.
Well, what we could do, the possibility is that, and we may not want to make that decision right now, kind of sleep on it, 25 years commitment, is that we will definitely commit to considering this before the end of this council, which is what, two years or so, 3 years. Councillor Blacker, then Councillor Bellamy.
I mean, I would suggest we go with the wording in the report, really. I think we need this matter to be sorted, for the advantage of the trust, and I think we need to get moving on this and get some certainty. So I would, yeah.
Okay, Councillor Bellamy, then Councillor Greaves.
Well, Councillor Black's proposed, I'll second.
Councillor Greaves, do you want to speak to what's been, we now have a proposal and a seconder, are you?
No, I just think that...
No, Councillor Greaves.
Sorry.
Rather than to review it every 5 years and to issue a new release, it perhaps be more helpful to do a much longer lease. So for a term of say 40 years, and then to introduce into that break clauses, then we wouldn't be going through all the legal costs every 5 years of redoing leases. There needs to be the break clauses of that, and that would give the exit. But a 40-year lease, I think, would be better than this every 5 years do another 25.
Are we allowed to commit to things beyond the life of the council we sit in?
Well, yes.
Are we?
Otherwise, we wouldn't even need to do a 25-year leasing first. But yeah.
Okay. So we have.
Just as your clerk, I would advise you, do you as a council know all the ramifications of that going before the year lease? I just think, as your clerk, I need to just ask whether you are in possession of all those ramifications.
Can I continue? So, no, we're not. But there's a bit more to it as well, which is, whilst I do understand and get kind of a comment about separating off repairs and improvements, conventionally within leases, it would be full repair and ensuring passing on to the tenant. So, if we were going to look at some separation of that responsibility, it really needs to be looked at by a lease solicitor, and we need to get the appropriate advice on it. So I think it's something that we should be able to get settled before the end of this year. But I think we do need to get professional advice in terms of these alterations to the leases, and then, as the clerk has said, what those responsibilities are going to be. Personally speaking, I'm really happy to see this forward plan. I think I've been wanting to see this for quite a period of time. And it just gives me that confidence of knowing that actually there is a forward plan, as opposed to a lurch from one calamity to another. And it's an old building, and I know it's going to.
There are other people want to speak. I think Councillor Booth speaks for us all there, so taking a longer term view of the building. You also had your hand up, Councillor Rostrom.
No.
Oh no. Okay, so the proposal. Repeat your proposal, Mary, please.
It's a proposal, yes, voiced by.
Yeah, so the first proposal from the report is the introduction of 5-yearly reviews of the lease for the Civic, and so long as all parties are in agreement that at each of those 5-yearly reviews, the lease is extended back to 25 years duration.
Should we say at least 25 years duration? Then we can embrace Charles's review. Should we have a longer one? Are people happy with that? Yeah. Are you happy to second at least? Thank you. Okay, all those in favour? That looks like pretty much everybody. Thank you. What else?
So the second proposal, and this connects in to what Councillor Greaves was saying, and also some advice that I'm going to give you as clerk. So the second proposal is to amend the lease so that Holme Valley Parish Council takes responsibility for repairs to the fabric of the building, whilst responsibility for modifications, developments and improvements remains the responsibility of Home First Civic Hall Community Trust. And certainly I was going to advise that is something that you take legal advice on.
Will somebody propose that we look at this and take legal advice on it? Thank you, Sarah. Seconded. Thank you, Tricia. All those in favour of pursuing this and getting legal advice? Thank you. And the funding.
Approve the release of £40,000 funding approved for 2024-25 as outlined to commence additional investigations and reports and urgent works as outlined.
All those in
I'll move it, yeah.
seconding, all those in favour? Thank you. Great, thank you. Thank you all. We look forward to a happier series of steps.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome to stay if you wish.
I might take this opportunity.
It's been much more interesting than the football.
Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Item 52, there's a list here of issues been raised with and in hand with the monitoring officer. We can't talk about what they are, who they are, what they're about, but there is one of the issues is going to an assessment and we don't know what the timing will be on any of them, but there is a new monitoring officer and it does look as though things are going to be dealt with quicker, which will be a good thing. Councillor White.
Just a point of information, I asked the legal officer who works with monitoring officer, if it would, I understand that it's not possible, desirable or anything for anybody other than them to know what the nature, what the, who the complainant is. But I don't think it would be really helpful if we knew what the nature of complaints is, because then that would help us understand the sorts of things that we're perhaps falling foul of. And he's agreed to take that to the monitoring officer, and it's the standards committee apparently who make the decisions about how those issues are handled. So that's just a point of information.
I mean, obviously, the clerk does know, and it is shared with me, but it's not made known to the council in general, because often they are delicate things. And, I mean, it's the equivalent of somebody being punished at work and publishing who's being reprimanded for what, which none of us would want at work. Chris?
I thought what Sarah was asking for, and what we used to do in the police was, you would get in your monthly reports an officer who was suspended for such a period of time for committing this general act. Was that what you were asking?
Yeah. Well, we get
to warn us of what we made, the potential to fall foul of.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we would get that when rulings were made. We've had that. When in the past there have been rulings made, but a lot of these things have been dickering around. At least one of them's been hanging around for more than a year. And we've got a new monitoring officer, and one hopes that things won't hang around for more than a year. The people involved are obviously informed. You know, they've been complained against and what have you. But it's quite delicate stuff. But when rulings are made, so for instance, that independent, the body, the standards committee that's looking at the one in particular, we will hear what the result of was that. We may not know the names, it depends what it is and what they found.
I wasn't asking for any names,
No, I
just wanted
understand.
to know the general
And
issue.
my understanding is that on the training, that this is going to be explored in some detail. Is that?
Yes.
Yes.
So we will all be wiser afterwards.
Yeah, obviously not these, but the general principles will be explored in some detail.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And we may have got things like 3 things have been, if things have been closed with no breach found, we don't need to know. We don't need to know what it was about. If things are, if sanctions are recommended, then clearly we do need to know, and we will know. I mean, I can only recall that happening, and it was one person who kept getting sanctions every 2 or 3 days for a while, didn't he?
Just to say, in response to what you said there, Councillor Stewart,
Yes.
is the whole point of doing the whole council training is because of the recommendation from the monitoring officer that this council looks at declarations of interest, the use of the code of conduct and so forth. So that gives you some indication about what some of these referrals are in connection to, because that's why she has said, you know, that you should be seeking training on that as a whole council.
And indeed making referrals at all. Okay, Agar. Rich, do you want to speak to Agar?
Yes, but I will hope it's quite brief. The AGAR has been through the Finance Committee, it's been through the internal auditor, so I'm hoping there won't be an awful lot of debate about it. The internal auditor was here last week. As always, she was trying desperately hard to catch us out, but she has to find things wrong with us, but there was nothing terribly wrong this time. The only thing she pulled us on was we had a few items that we needed to add to the fixed asset list, i.e. Gemma's chair, a couple of signs up on phone box, and the what are the parking bollard things called? the school bollard. So I had to add those to the asset list, and then that changes the figure of the what number is it? It changes box 9 on the AGAR, which is now £5,282,130. So, but otherwise everything went fine. Councillor Greaves spotted a mistake at F&M, so that was very helpful. The auditor found no additional mistakes. So basically, as you can see, so I mean you can just work your way down. So so you've got to note the internal audit report, note the fixed asset list, and then to approve all of the other documents in one go, essentially.
Can I just congratulate the whole team, but especially you? I mean, when I think of where we moved on from when I was first a councillor, where the responses back from outside auditors on all aspects of our finance ran to volumes the length of War and Peace. They're now searching around for something wrong, so that's excellent. Well,
thank you very much. And if the committee does approve the documentation, you need to do some sign. I would just do the signing there and then, if you don't mind.
okay, yeah. So can we approve the annual governance statement? All those in favour? Thank you. Can we approve the accounting statements? All of it. Thank you.
I think you could have just done it all in one go, Councillor, really.
I beg your pardon?
I would just do it in one go.
All right, well, I'm on the last one anyway. Can we approve all the supporting documentation? Thank you. Okay, all approved, and don't let me go without signing.
Could you sign them now?
Oh, right.
Congratulations, you've just been to
Okay, so that brings us on to GDPR stuff and privacy notices. It's a sort of we have to do it thing.
There's not a lot more to say than is already in them, except that I think this came out of internal audit. In that the notices were in need of updating as they had the name of the previous clerk on them, so they were on the list to do anyway. But we have done that as part of what we've done for the AGAR this time. And just to say that the revised privacy notices are based on the model privacy notices.
Okay, reserves policy.
You need to approve them.
Ah, right. All those in favour? Thank you. Reserves policy. We need to approve.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk?
Yeah, well, very briefly, yeah, it will just take 30 seconds. Yeah, the reason I did this, I mean, it's rather frustrating with our accounting software that you can find three different, if you put your numbers in, you can find three different figures for general reserves, which is obviously not very helpful. So what I did with this reserves policy is I tried to describe the reserves as they are laid out in the practitioner's guide, which is meant to govern everything we do. So it's meant to be very kind of tailored. And then what I'm going to do is just write a report to finance basically every time we meet where it discusses this particular thing. So it's just updated to take some of the confusion away about what constitutes a general reserve, basically.
Confusion like
it's
what we had
confusion.
at the last full council. Councillor Wilson.
Just a question for Richard. How long does this reserves policy last? I mean, is this
Well, as long
as a stone?
as long as it likes, really.
If we wish to change it, how would we go about doing that?
You just come to it, you know, you just discuss it at finance, make a resolution, however you wish.
So if we had a reason to
Yeah,
change
yeah.
it, we could do so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Mary.
I just, this is a bit tangential really, but I noticed in the list of strategic priorities at the beginning of the document, the strategic priorities listed there are those that were adopted in, I think, 21, in 2021. And we've been through the process of looking again at strategic priorities. And obviously we're waiting for things to be redone on the website as well. And that too has their own document, so maybe it might be quite a good idea to list the strategic priorities that we agreed in December, last December 23. I mean, there's no mention of climate strategy or climate action in the older version, which is quite important that that's in there.
Well, to which I would say, given that amendment that we should change that to incorporate that, are we happy to approve the updated policy? And all those in favour? Thank you. And it's you again, Rich.
Yeah, I don't
data.
have something to say about budgets. I did make not that it's going to make a huge difference, it only affects £50, but I did put a coding error in which meant they looked like we got more garage income than we'd actually received. But basically we've got all of the incomes come in for our garage tenancies, all the incomes come in for our allotments. You're aware that half of the precepts has come in and half of the special expenses grants come in. So the income is basically on track. In terms of the expenditure, as I think I probably said at the last council meeting, and I did at finance, the only thing that's worth pointing out really is that our insurance again is way over budget. So just be conscious that when we get to year end, that's going to be 3,000 more than it should have been.
Okay, thank you. Do we note that? Yeah. Okay. Schedule of payments.
That's just a note as well. There's nothing actually to resolve because we're already pre-approved.
Okay. Do we approve the schedule of
It's
payments?
just a note.
All those in favour? Yeah. Thank you. The ward register. Apparently, only 2 people have filled in their forms with the assets.
No, it's more than two people, Chair. And certainly, I've had a conversation with Councillor Wilson this evening, and I've managed to miss his because he has done it as well. So it's more than 2 people, but certainly, whilst thanking those people who have got updated ward registers back to me, there's room to receive further updates.
I want to be included with Councillor Wilson, and I've sent mine in.
Right,
Email on 23rd of May.
Right. I have looked through my emails and some of these seem to have gone missing. So
can I suggest you send this again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'd personally like to thank Alison for doing mine.
Well, that was my request as well.
I mean, it will be an ongoing process. I'm happy to send out individual ward registers again if PDF documents as well, and accept further amendments, and it can be presented again at the full council meeting on October the 14th.
That's the right answer to my question, actually. What happens next though? Because sorry to be so extreme here, but I did give you my stuff last October, and it's been a long time, and if you have a register of assets that are broken or whatever, it's not a good look, is it? If people aren't looking to see.
It's a fair point. It's just that it's literally just in time for this meeting that I've updated it, and obviously I'll be going back to our maintenance contractor with some of the things which obviously do need
It goes to
attention.
John sorts it out basically.
But sometimes it might be issues that aren't just to John, right? Things that you observe. So that worries me a bit, that, you know, it just goes back to John.
Well, I guess if you've got things that cropped up that are not just John jobs, you probably need to send them to service provision to be raised and discussed in more detail then, and then they can come to full council with recommendations. So you have. Has service provision ignored you?
Can I ask what it was about? What was the issue?
Just about mending things, just about the look of the valley. Yeah, I just think I'd like to have something a little bit more.
It was an item in the last service provision
It was.
committee.
It was. Yeah.
I mean, it's sent
Just
up
like
to the committee to
The committee,
on
the
actions.
committee will either bring it, make a recommendation to full council or not.
We'll just keep going.
Yeah.
But we note your concern, and you're quite right, that things looking dilapidated isn't good, and none of us wants that, and you're quite right to raise the issue.
And I would also like to add that I think rather than having banners and bollard covers, if we actually looked at the fabric of our towns and villages, that would be much more effective in making Canterbury better than having flags. I'm really sorry, but I think it's really important that we should be doing that. That's something that's in our remit here, and we don't seize it, we don't do it.
I think you should join the Lawrence's committee.
I'm on Lawrence's
Oh,
committee.
right. Yeah, well, just keep you're raising valid issues, and sometimes our priorities, what we need to approve this month overrides what we need to look at over 4 years, rather like the civic has been for a long time. And we are right, we probably do need to have a good long, and maybe your committee might want to set up a working group. I really suggest I'm not ordering anything. You may wish to, is all I'm saying.
We have a service provision meeting on the 8th of July.
I can think of who should be chair. Okay, councillor training and evaluation.
Just a reminder as well that when you have any training, please do complete these and get them back to me. I usually do send a blank performer out with the email confirming the booking. And whilst finance and management oversees councillor training, the feedback is shared through these full council meetings, so all councillors do receive all evaluations that do come back.
Is it big community now? Sorry, sir.
That's all right. But this may be a personal opinion. Well, it is a personal opinion. It seems to me that if you're going to do an evaluation of some training, and whether it was good, bad or indifferent, that needs to feed into something. So, for example, one I did recently, and Trevor did too, was about communications. And there was some really, really useful guidance about the sorts of things that any organisation, ours is one of them, might undertake, including things like a customer survey. So that feeding into the things that we do seems to me to be pretty important. Otherwise, it just stays with the person who does it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, and the natural place would be your committee
Yes,
in that
exactly,
particular
which is
case.
what's
But
happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the one I did was about better meetings. I'm sure you've spotted this. And I'm not sure, I mean, I did a written. I hope it's helpful for people looking at it, and when they look at the list of training available, to think, look, it doesn't, there's nobody to feed it into, as it were. But I thought it was particularly useful, especially for people who haven't done much chairing, or perhaps have done no chairing, it would be very useful. Sarah?
Maybe an addition to the pro forma might be any recommendations for where this might go to, or how it might be developed. Do you know the sort of thing I mean? Yeah.
Okay, so am I right in thinking it's the big community celebration next? Yes.
No.
Sorry.
My hand's on my-
Oh, F&M, yeah, sorry. Anybody going to speak to F&M?
Am I going to? Okay, I guess we've all read this, lengthy paragraph of what it's about, but essentially, as a parish council, if we carry out repairs to our buildings, we can claim the VAT back. So we get more bang for our buck. If we were to do those repairs, in this case with the civic through the trust, they wouldn't be able to claim it back. So there's a 20% difference in what we can do with our money. We've taken advice, or rather I think it's down to Rich really, who's spoken to an accountant to ask really, is this something that we can do? The answer is yes, we can.
I'll just make the point that it's not formal advice. This is the nature of.
Yeah.
This is advice of an accountant, but it's not. It's basically done as a favour rather than us paying him for his advice.
So essentially, what he's saying is, as long as the parish council is the sole funder of the specific project, we can do that. So we're being asked to consider whether to accept this advice.
Councillor Holme.
It does seem to me, I mean, it'll be sensible that you save 20%, but with the proposal to change the lease, will that make it any different in future?
No, I don't think it needs to do.
And my second question is, do you think we need legal advice as to whether it's...
I mean that's for you to say. This is why it's ended up with council.
Good point.
Sure.
Do you want to answer that before Chris asks his question, or do you?
Yeah, I mean, even if we weren't to change the terms of the lease, and you leave the responsibility of the repairs with the civic trust, that doesn't stop us as a council placing that order and reclaiming the VAT.
And that's legal to do it on their behalf, is it?
According to the advice that we've been given, yes.
Chris?
I would have thought if we ask for the money back, and it's not legal, they won't give us the money. So that's the only advice that
Absolutely, being able to get a successful VAT reclaim, don't make it legal. There's been lots of successful VAT reclaims that have then resulted in people getting sent down for fraud, including our former VAT. But I think this is an issue that's probably best picked up if we're going to get some legal advice on the lease alterations, it'd be worthwhile just raising it at that point.
Yes.
But from my experience, the advice is correct, and in terms of what Councillor Wilson's outlined, I think that's correct also. It would be, if anything, if the repair obligation remained with the trust, it would be the form of words that we needed to come between landlord and tenant as to why landlord is doing this. Yeah. And I think that's something that a solicitor could help with. It doesn't need to be overly difficult, but it'd be the bit where effectively the landlord is agreeing to take responsibility for these unexpected works or something along those lines. But and then we'll go for it.
Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, I think it covers like what we're going to ask the legal advice about with the repairs in the Syndic Hall. The wording of the motion, which was presented by Alexander Bray, I thought it was a bit vague about the parish council taking on the repairs in the Syndic Hall as long as the Syndic Hall Trust saw fit. It was something kind of like that in the motion, and during that period, it seems like we're agreeing to take on the repairs, so we can reclaim the VAT for it. But in the long term, I'd like to think that maybe the Civic Hall might take back on the repairs anyway. But as long as we are agreeing to do it over a 10-year, if we're doing it over a 10-year period, like was suggested, and the list of all the repairs, we could save a lot of money by extending the VAT. So if we get it back and it's in formal and in writing rather than just what someone said, I think we should do it. There's not doing anything wrong.
Okay, all those in favour? Big community celebration. Does the working group want to speak to this matter?
Yeah, well, you've got a bit of information now. The date's been set. The wheels are in motion, so to speak. One thing that we have done, because there's quite a bit of advertising already going out on a number of events that are happening in the autumn, we thought we should grasp the nettle and get some advance save the date information out. To it, we've employed Redback, local design agency, to produce for us some cards that we can use at Holme show. They'll be ready by the weekend, and that's the first stage, if you like, and it can be in a form which enables us to use the same image on Facebook and wherever. So it's just that's the stage we're at, getting information out so that people know that it's happening. And then there's the matter of having a look at who we invite and in what ways and what that looks like. But it's work in progress.
Thank you. Okay. I don't think we as a group need to take further. Have you got your hand up, or are you?
No.
You're scratching your head. You've just bought an antique.
Right. Long way.
Approval of the payment.
Can I
Oh,
just
sorry,
say, yeah, no, it's just with because Sarah's so ambitious about this, it's now become a big community celebration rather than just a community celebration. So we do want lots of involvement, you know, so we do want everybody to feel committed to this, that it's going to be definitely showcasing the parish council and all the community activities. So, you know, we're planning big for it, so we need as much support and input from everybody. So if you have any comments or advice, you know,
people you feel should be
good.
especially invited and things like that.
Yeah.
Everybody, please let the working group know.
We'll put a call out saying,
Yeah.
you know, this is where we're at, this is what information we need from you, if you've got any suggestions, etc., etc.
Great. Thank you. A payment. Will be Chair of Planning.
Thank you.
What is this about?
Yeah, sorry, this is a bit mysterious, isn't it? What this is about is the purchase of the second set of no parking bollards. A first set has been purchased and is already in use for school, and according to Andy, has had some impact, positive impact. Parking there. So they are now in the process of purchasing the second set of bollards, which are going to go with Rockhill School. So this is just the mechanism for being able to pay for this second set of bollards. So I ask you to approve the request so we can pay our bill. Really?
All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Thank you. Chair's report. I've had three outings with the chain on. One was to the Kirklees Civic Service in the parish church in Huddersfield, which was delightful because it was a beautiful sunny day and the bells were ringing and it was very charming, and it was both Catholic and Protestant, because I think the resigning mayor might have been a Catholic, but he felt it shouldn't be a Catholic exclusive thing. So that was very pleasant. The new mayor is, who I imagine is Muslim. Yes, she is Muslim. It was said she's Muslim. Is not going to do the religious backing to her term. She's, but it was all very nice, and I went to the mayor making at the town hall, which was all very splendid robes, and 4 councillors speaking, all of whom claimed they'd been told to speak for only 2 minutes, but it felt like a hell of a lot more than 2 minutes.
Did they put the timer because it was longer than 2 minutes? I kept going, yeah.
Yeah, I kept thinking, wow, these are long minutes they have in this town hall. But it was interesting. And the opening of the Arts Festival, where I went to an informal gathering to celebrate the kick-off, as it were, which was very pleasant and in an interesting venue. They had a photographic exhibition and the co-op expanded in the Co-op Cafe, which is quite a good venue. It was very successful, wasn't it? Mm. So that's my report, really, that's all I've done. I'm not sure you need to take any actions, but you need to consider whether you need to take any actions. I'm going to Holme show on Saturday. Do we have to vote?
You can just note it.
No, right. No. West Yorkshire Mass Transit briefing. You've seen this. Do we need to take any further actions about the mass transit briefing? No? Do we all agree no further actions? Yes.
This is the best service provision, maybe, that we might want to think about.
Have you read it?
I know it's about. Sorry, it was all the news at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, my reading of it, others may want to comment, is it doesn't really impact on our interests specifically.
Okay.
I mean, I assume you'll keep a watching brief on it anyway.
Yeah.
Part of your remit. Thank you. So no further action other than keeping an eye open. Hull Council training, it's now booked. Monday the 1st of July became, for some reason I can't imagine why, not entirely appropriate. And so it's attached. We're going to get a cup of tea.
And I interject on that because I put in when I did the agenda that the clerk suggests up to £10 to be spent on refreshment for a cup of tea. On reflection, you're going to be there for some considerable time across an evening, and it may be that is revised. I have done some research. Sainsbury's meat sandwich platter, which consists of 20 quarters, costs £14. So I actually would suggest that you might want to up the budget for refreshments to £60, so that within the 3 hours of training you can have a break with a cup of tea and a sandwich. And we do need to provide a sandwich to the trainer anyway. It would seem a little bit rich to be you all sat there watching the trainer
We would obviously cater for vegetarians and everything else. It won't just be me.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting it to the vote. I'm taking a chairman's decision. We're having sandwiches.
In which
Councillor Whitelaw.
So can I ask a question? So as Jen knows, now the date has changed, I'm not able to come to the rearranged date.
We'll bring you a sandwich.
To Sicily. I mean, on a serious note, what happens then as far as my engagement with the training materials is concerned?
I think what we will make sure to do is get copies of any paperwork or charts, paper copies of charts and stuff like that. And it could apply to anybody who misses it. I'm sure that Jen and I would be willing to do a little debrief for people who couldn't make it if we felt the charts wouldn't do the job on their own.
I think given the discussion we had about the monitoring officer,
yes,
that would actually really help.
Yeah.
We could do that. Okay, so we're happy to approve the expenditure. I'm telling you that.
Revised to include sandwiches.
Yes. And now, we now have an odd thing because we need to elect a representative to something that we thought had gone out of, and it hasn't. It does still exist, but it hasn't met for ages. So, would you like to talk about this?
Yes, sorry, Chair, if I could just go back to
Oh, sorry.
1965. So, you've all got a blank training requirements performance. Let me just explain about that. So as you know, the reason this training's been organised is to follow up the recommendations from the monitoring officer. And so included in your pack, you've got the training requirements form filled in by me with that viewpoint. However, YRCA has specifically asked to make sure that all of you as councillors, if you wish to have an input into giving feedback to YRCA about your training needs, that you can do that, which is why you've all got a blank form given out to you. And that can then be relayed back to YRCA either through me, if you get it back to me, or indeed you can email them yourself. So it's a little bit of a strange thing. I feel obliged to give you this because YRCA has specifically asked me to do that. However, the training we need YRCA to provide you is the training that the monitoring officer has recommended you have. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. We now need to appoint a representative to Earnshaws, which either does or doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
online charities and so
But apparently they haven't, it's for, you know, it's education and religious education in Holme.
And Adrian was doing it for himself, so
That's right.
it's a little unholy. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you need to approve that.
Oh, all those in favour of Sarah? Thank you. And then it brings us to items for public. Just before we get on to that, I've been looking at the minutes of the last full council meeting and looking at this thing about whether Kirklees Council should report. We did not take a vote on it. That may be my fault. There was no vote. It was discussed and no conclusion was reached. So who phrased what in what way is up for grabs. We did not approve or disapprove to include it. If you look at the minutes, you can see that may be my fault for not raising it.
There had been a motion a resolution previously on the recommendation from Case that this was included as an agenda item. That might go back to the October meeting.
Because we did not, in the end. I'm just reading it here. I read it through 5 times, thinking, surely we voted on it. We didn't vote on it. So.
On the December full council. That was the following. Yeah. From the case recommendation in October, it went to the full council.
Yeah, and we did not vote on it. If you look at the minutes, number 22, there was discussion, and we didn't have a vote. So. Nobody's right and nobody's wrong.
That was during the when it was an item at the last council meeting, wasn't it?
It was an item then, and during that item we discussed whether it should continue to be an item, and we didn't agree. We didn't take a vote.
Yeah.
So nobody's right and nobody's wrong on that moment.
So where does that leave it?
Well, we've now voted against it.
It's where it's going back on, so it's going to be on the next agenda.
Sorry, say that again.
It's going to be back on the agenda for the next 4 council
Yeah,
meetings.
we voted.
Sorry.
It might be the case to maybe just to kind of give some guidelines about what we can do and how it is, because the way you spoke about it in today's meeting, I was okay with it being like that, but just the way that some people have been using it in other meetings, I disagreed with, and I thought that's why I disagreed with it. Okay.
Okay. So items to be publicised in particular, Lawrence?
Can I just suggest you going back to the thing about the civic hall, which is more of a long-term thing. I would like to think that where we are going as a council in terms of our relationship, our commitment, our investment in civic hall, that we're taking the whole community with us on this. And it may be that, you know, this could be something that comes up perhaps by a case, I'm not sure. You know, how we do that over time, really. You know, if we're saying, I mean, as Andy
The
said,
way
you know,
Andy was talking
exactly,
about,
you know,
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
how we should value it as an asset for the community.
There are very few
Perhaps
parishes
we need
who
to
have an
keep
asset like this.
banging away at that.
Yeah. Yes, and instead of seeing it as a black hole, we see it as something we choose to provide for the community. Yeah.
Something like an open day might be quite a good thing to do. Once we've got this all firmed up, this new relationship, an open day where people can come around and have a look around and see it all and really push the civic hall for what it is and what we're going to do with it, the vision for the future.
Sarah, then Steve.
I think that's exactly the sort of thing that we might say, well, shall we have a little stall at the big event that says this is what's going on with the civic hall, and you know, showcase it.
Yeah. Steve?
Yeah, look, to reiterate what Sarah said and agree with it, but also when the architect's report comes for the vision, I think then we need some sort of big publicity.
Yes.
Because it needs to be the community's vision, not ours.
But I think that's, I think that might be the next council rather
Yes,
than
I think it's...
We're going to be the maintenance and repair council. The next council might get to have the pleasure of the vision.
Yeah.
We can be thinking about the vision though.
Yes, of course. And yes,
Well,
and the civic trust, I mean the trust itself is, and our members of it are,
And that is happening actually.
Yes.
Anything else people feel is are particular items for public? Emma? Gemma, sorry.
Just a reminder that we're still in pre-election sensitivity on items that we're putting out as news items. So slightly reduced content on our social media and website at the moment, but I will be putting things out about our presence at Holme Show. I did put some stuff out about our presence at the Arts Festival. Upcoming is going to be items about the SID now that it's in circulation, and the bollards at Brockham School. If anybody else has got anything they want to write, they want to send me anytime, please feel free.
Thank you. Okay, thank you everybody.